Hello and welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast. We are powered each week by our friends at Harper's Tree and Stump Removal. If you have any tree trimming, tree removal, or stump removal needs, Harper's Tree and Stump Removal has you covered. They can also haul rock and sand, they can do driveway work, and can now do horizontal grindings of large wood debris piles. Give Keith a call at 229-314-2048 or at 229-938-2412. Harper's Tree and Stump Removal. They're the proud premier sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, covering local sports in the Southwest Georgia area, creating content that is factual, positive, and informative, promoting efforts by athletes, coaches, and sports administrators. Now, here's your host, Tim Estes.
Hello, and thank you for making the Integrity Sports Podcast a part of your weekly routine. We are live at the Roman Oven Pizzeria, a very crowded Roman Oven Pizzeria tonight. We hope you'll come by and have supper with us, hang out, and let's talk a little high school sports. Joining me tonight is the legendary prognosticator, Scott Westbrook. And Scott, we had another big week of high school football this past week. Unfortunately, for two of our local teams, it didn't go their way, but still a good bit to talk about tonight.
Indeed. We're deep in the playoffs. There's only a few teams left throughout the whole state. Last week, like you said, two out of our three local teams fell, and we'll discuss that. But they were at least both teams made it, past the first round and did well in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Want to say hello to all our friends watching from Boulder, Colorado tonight. A lot of the Colorado Buffaloes in the training room with the Integrity Sports Podcast on, and we welcome you to the broadcast tonight. Let's start with Southland Academy like we do each week. Southland finished the season at 4 wins and 8 losses. They lost in the semifinals of the GHSA Class AA state playoffs last week to Brentwood. So, Scott, the Raiders' season comes to an end with a 40-20 loss in the semifinals. Brentwood, a very good football team. They'll now take on Southwest Georgia Academy. That'll be at 5 o'clock on Saturday over in Statesboro at Georgia Southern.
Brentwood was a team we talked about earlier in the year. We expected them to be deep in the playoffs, to go deep in the playoffs. I think when Southland, especially with the injuries and early in the season and even throughout the season, some of the key players they lost for the entire season. I think this season should still be chalked up as a successful season. They missed it one game away from going to a state championship. They won in the first round. They finished strong. The kind of stuff that you like to see when a program's looking to be to get the pendulum swinging back the other direction.
Yeah, for Chance Jones, he comes in and he faced an uphill battle all year. Mm-hmm. He lost his starting quarterback in the first game of the season.
Right.
Season-ending injury to Mac McMichael. They only had 23 or 24 players at that time. As you mentioned, they lost several throughout the season. 2 others, I think, were season-ending injuries as well. But Mac McMichael, that one hurt. Cooper Boren came in and did a commendable job filling in for the rest of the season, and he took the reins and did well. Scott, my overall sense as we close out the season for Southland is that the wing tee offense that Chance Jones installed became an effective way for them to compete. Even with the lower numbers, it laid a good foundation for what's to come. And I think what needs to happen now, I bet there's a dozen kids at Southland that are walking the halls that should be on the football field. So my plea to those folks tonight, if you're watching this, Chance and those guys that competed this year laid a great foundation. But in a school the size of Southland or Schley, these smaller schools, you need everybody that is an athlete to come out and play.
We hear things like peer pressure, and a lot of times when you hear the term peer pressure, it's always used or most of the time it's used in a negative context. This is the time when peer pressure can be in a positive context, when the coaches and the teachers and the administration and the fans and the booster club can only do so much. If you're a football player or you're a baseball player or you're a basketball player, get every person out there that you can. I mean, don't sit there and think, well, I would ask him or her or whatever to come out, but they might not come out or they wouldn't like it or whatever. Let them decide. Let them. I mean, sometimes that's all it takes is one person to imagine. If Chance would have had a couple other players that he could have plugged in when injuries or when the players got tired late in the game, because there was a couple of games that were winnable, but I'm sure they just ran out of personnel and ran out of gas. If you had a couple of more players that you could have put in and give some guys some breathers, it could have been, a different record. But like we said, this is a successful season. They finished strong. They one game away from the state championship. I don't, with the new coach and a new system and all, I mean, it's anybody that's got any sense has got to consider this a successful season.
Definitely want to tip our caps to all of the coaching staff at Southland Academy, too. They had a challenge this year. They certainly rose to the challenge. Scott, they put together great game plans every week and competed deep into games against very good teams that had a lot more numbers and probably a good bit more talent. But they put together a game plan, installed it, the kids bought into it. A great job by that Raider coaching staff.
No doubt. That you could tell as the success built later in the season that a lot of that was the fact that the kids were buying into it and it was starting to make sense, and the engine was starting to fire on all cylinders.
Basketball season is now underway for Southland. The Raiders and Lady Raiders are 2 games into the season now. Both teams got opening wins over Baker County. This past Tuesday, they hosted Crisp Academy. And then tomorrow night, they will host Central Fellowship Christian out at the Melvin T. Kinslow Gymnasium at Southland Academy. So Raider fans, it's now time to turn your attention to both the men's and the women's basketball teams. Today's program is also brought to you in part by One Digital Solutions. They are a steward for business growth and personal development. One Digital resolves real problems by fusing together real solutions for your business and your employees. How do they do this? They do it by providing a tech-enabled, customized solution that handle things like human resource management, financial services, and employee benefits. It really is everything all in one. It's One Digital Solutions. Contact Will Peterson today. His number is 229-347-6289. And let One Digital begin helping you today. That takes us to the Schley County Wildcats. The Wildcats finished their season with a record of 6 wins and 5 losses. This past Friday night, they lost in the playoffs to Tryon, 45-40. So the Wildcats season comes to a close. The best number 3 team in any region in the state of Georgia, I think, was Tryon. They were 9-2 and visited Ellaville. They defeated us 45-40. I'm not sure that any of us expected that type of game going in. I knew, Scott, that there would be some rebuilding this year for Schley County, but we seem to struggle all year long in one aspect of the game or another. We started out, didn't tackle very well in the first few games. Then we kind of got the defense fixed, and the running game on offense really started struggling. And when that got fixed, we had other things. We had the PATs and the field goals that struggled a little bit. And I kind of had this feeling the whole time, like, sooner or later, we're going to put this together and be pretty good. And it just never seemed to get together where all facets of the game were good at one time.
Tryon, they could not have really picked, like you said, a worse opponent in the second round. That's a 3 seed.
Yeah.
Tryon reminded me, I've seen them play a lot of times. They remind me of a Brookstone team. Brookstone, year in and year out, would always field a good team. They would graduate a boatload of starters, and the next year they would start a bunch of sophomores and freshmen and a few juniors, and they'd come in there and hang with you and almost beat you a lot of times, with a whole new bunch of kids. Tryon's a lot in the same way. They'll, a couple of years ago, they had the leading rusher in the state, and I think he's now at Georgia Southern. And But Tryon, year in and year out, fields a good team. And, when you get in a shootout where there's, a high scoring shootout, the scales tip to Tryon because they were probably, because of the region they were in, and this is something that you can't control, they were battle tested. And when you get into a close game and you get into, you can schedule as many, tough non-region games as you can if you're in a region that's not doing so well. But nothing is a substitute for what Tryon's had to do to fight for that number 3 seed. And in most regions in the state of Georgia, they would have probably been a number 1 seed.
Absolutely, yeah. Senior Zayden Walker committed to the University of Georgia very early on. We certainly want to wish him well. Brody Smith had a great senior season at the linebacker spot. He will play college baseball as he's already committed early to Central Alabama to play baseball. Scott, I fully expect Kendall Sims to get some more offers. He's got one on the table right now, and we know he's made some visits. So Kendall had a great senior season for the Wildcats. And no question about it, there's nobody that does a better job than Darren Alford marketing his players and getting them to the next level.
I've said it time and time again. You can sit there and look at other teams in the regions and just see, the talent level may be equal, but Coach Alford really does a lot of work behind the scenes. And I do want to correct one thing you did say was Zayden Walker is committed to Georgia as of now.
As of now.
I know that there's some rumblings coming out of Boulder that there may be a late push for him.
Absolutely. And I saw our guys in Boulder are really happy today because Juju Lewis committed.
I will tell you a story about that. I had to go to Carrollton the other day. Well, I had to be there Tuesday morning. Went to the local restaurant, the little Greasy Spoon. I ate it when I was in college there. Got to talk to a bunch of the guys, and they said, there's rumors that he may, end up here. And I said, well, maybe, in Boulder. I said, I know he had a good time when he was out there. And I know they made a real push for him. And I think, the fact that Shadur's graduating, there's going to be a vacancy there. It's all the key components that a big-time recruit looks for. Well, I went to a appraiser office, a buddy of mine, and to get some help with a project I was working on. And he said, hey, Scott, I want to tell you something. I said, what? He said, I live in the same neighborhood as Juju Lewis. And he said, there's a new cyber truck in his driveway.
Oh, wow.
I said, really? I said, yeah. He said, when he was committed to USC, he said there was an F-150 Raptor. And I said, I'm just going to tell you, those cyber trucks are very popular in Boulder. I'll tell you that. And I said, because it came down to Georgia and Colorado, I think, were the last two. Now, if it had been a Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am, I think I'd have thought maybe Georgia.
Yeah.
But since it was a cyber truck, I think we leaned towards because I think that's what Herschel had right after he committed, wasn't it?
That's right. That's right. Scott, let's wrap Schley County up just by talking about some of the guys that will come back. I felt like quarterback Blake Weldon played even better than we expected this season. He'll come back as a senior, and he'll need to be the guy that's leading the Wildcats. We also have guys like Amir Nelson, Jeremiah Johnson, and Jaden Figueroa. That's all three of the guys that carried the football a lot for you. They're all coming back next year. Then you flip over on defense, and you got guys like Jonathan Leggett that really stepped up. He'll return. Big guys up front like Gabe Powell and Dedrick Thornton and Liam Snyder. And a guy we haven't talked a lot about but really made a move the last 4 or 5 games is Weston Watson.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So the cabinet's not empty.
No. And it's funny because a lot of those names that you're saying, I know for a fact will be playing on Saturday. So they've got some key components there that they can build off of. And then we bounce right back. There's kids walking the hall that could, you'd be surprised if you'd go out there and give a little bit of effort, have a positive attitude, and work hard. You might be playing on Friday nights too, rather than sitting in the stands.
That's right. So congratulations to Schley County on another successful season. They are now underway in basketball as well. Coach Clifton Aldridge is the new head men's basketball coach at Schley County. And, of course, Coach Brent Moore with the women, and they look forward to a good basketball season. Today's program is also brought to you by our friend Marty McDonald at the Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance Agency. They are located at 925 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Americus. You can reach them at 928-3686 or look them up on Facebook. Better yet, drop by and see Marty, Mary Lynn, or any of their staff and let them discuss your insurance needs with you. Thanks again to Marty McDonald State Farm for sponsoring this segment of the Integrity Sports Podcast. And like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. And that brings us to our one local team that did get a win last week, and a big one, the Sumter County Panthers. They were 9-1 going into last week. They are now 10-1 as they blasted Union County 37-6. So, Scott, Coach Will Rogers and the Panthers far superior over the other brand of Panthers from Union County.
Yes, we called that one. We predicted that one, both of us. I think that Sumter County performed well at home. Hopefully they are peaking late in the season and will build on that. They have a pretty strong opponent this week that they're going to have to face, and they're going to have to travel to that game. And, it's something we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But winning in Union County, winning strong, usually helps them catapult them into this week's opponent.
Scott, when we talked about Sumter County last week, we said the defense we felt like would be the key to a Sumter County win, and it was. We knew that Union County had a quality quarterback coming in. Listen to this. They held Camden Kendrick, the Union County quarterback, to only 60 yards passing on 21 attempts. They also held the Union County running back, Connor Skonectic, I think is how they pronounced it, to 43 yards rushing. That's only 103 total yards of offense by their two offensive stars. This Sumter County defense is no joke.
Well, most definitely. I mean, they Coach Rogers has built on that. He's got some great athletes out there, and that's the one thing that was different from Tryon is that Union County came in and they were not battle tested. Right. They did not come from a strong region. They did not come from an area of the state that sees a lot of the speed that we see down here, and I think that probably played well into Sumter County's favor the other night.
Sumter County will now face another 10-1 team. That's Morgan County, and they will travel to Madison, Georgia, to take on Morgan County this coming Friday. The Panthers have allowed 114 points all season long. When you compare that to Morgan County, they've allowed 227 all year long. Offensively, however, Morgan County comes in averaging 39.5 points a game, while Sumter County is only averaging 32.5. So, Scott, you're going to have Morgan County, a very prolific offense with a good quarterback, a very good D1 level receiver, against a Sumter County team who really depends a lot on their defense. Looks like it's going to be a good matchup.
I think so.
Got a chance to talk to my friend Drew Torok, who is the PA announcer for Madison Morgan County for the Morgan County High School Athletics, and he feels the same way. You're going to have they're going to butt heads because it's the strength of Morgan County on offense against the strength of Sumter on defense. Maybe what can the other side of the ball do for these two teams? Right.
That's maybe where the winner of the Friday night's game it is on the opposite side of the ball, exactly like what you said, not where their strengths are, but maybe the strongest of the two weak sides, perhaps. But, the one thing that concerns me, obviously, is that Sumter County is going to be on the road for this one. Historically, Sumter County in the past few years has not traveled well. I hope that this Friday night that changes because we're going to need a good fan support. The young men are going to need to hear the people behind them cheering for them and putting the pressure on Morgan County, because Morgan County historically has not been a Georgia football powerhouse. Right. They're again from another part of the state that's really not a lot of strong football played in that general area. You've got Putnam County, Morgan County, Green County just came around a few years ago, but from what I understand and talking to you and you talking to your contacts up there, they're senior loaded this year.
They are,
and so that right
junior
there,
and senior.
Right, yeah. right. But they're I think Sumter County is a little more battle tested. So I'm hoping that plays well into their advantage.
Today's program is also brought to you in part by the Fish House, located at 224 North Jackson Street in Americus. They offer the freshest seafood in all of Southwest Georgia. whether it's shrimp, oysters, or catfish in their seafood center, or a hot meal and a cold drink in the Fish House restaurant next door. Owner Mark Tyler and his staff want to serve you tonight. Give them a call at 924-5177. You can even put in a to-go order at 924-5177. The Fish House is proud to sponsor the Integrity Sports Podcast. Go by and see them tonight. Scott, a few other games that we can talk about and I think fairly easily predict. Lee County, who is probably one of the most talented football teams in all of Georgia, not just Southwest Georgia. They're 11-0, but they've got a little test this week. They're going to host East Paulding, who comes in at 10-1.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Lee County on that. They're playing at home. They're, unless they just look past East Paulding on this one, I think East Paulding is from a good area of Georgia as far as football. You've got, right there on the edge of Cobb County where they typically play some pretty good football. But I still think Lee County is going to be the Final Four before they really start seeing some significant competition.
I think I'm going to go with you. Lee County's just been so dominant this year, Scott, it's hard to pick against them at any time.
Right.
Macon County won last week. They're out of Sly County's region. Macon 7-4. They're going to host Jenkins County, who comes in at 9-2. And I did not look at Georgia high school football daily. Did you get a spread on that game?
I think it was like 14. I think. Gosh, I looked at it right before the show. I didn't write it down. I think they were like favoring Jenkins County, maybe. Yeah. I think, but the thing about Jenkins County, once again, not a team that many people in high school football follow. Like you said, most people don't know where Jenkins County is, and the only way I know is because Michelle's parents are from there. Millen and Perkins and all that area just outside of Statesboro. Have historically been a basketball school. Because of their population numbers or not a lot of growth in that area, at least in the Jenkins County, as opposed to just right nearby in Metter and Statesboro. But the past few years, they've made a little noise in high school football. I'm still going to go with Macon County on this, just because Macon County has the history. Whenever I sit there and I see two teams that Jenkins County is just kind of the new kid on the block. They're not used to the fans aren't used to being deep in the playoffs. The players aren't used to being deep in the playoffs. I know they got a lot of talent. They got some good receiver core down there, but I still think Macon County is going to win this one.
All right, GIAA Class AA State Championship game. This will be held down in Statesboro at Georgia Southern University. Southwest Georgia Academy at 9-1 takes on Brentwood, who's 10-1.
I'm going to go with Brentwood on this simply because of my conversation with one of the Southland fans last week. They said that they think Brentwood would be one of the teams that would compete in GHSA. That's in their classification. They did well this past Friday night. Brentwood early in the season, we talked about them possibly being in the state championship game, and here they are. So I'm gonna ride that pony.
This is one you and I are going to disagree on. I'm going to go with our friends from Damascus. Know a lot of folks down there. They've got a roster of about 50 kids. So they go in with a lot of firepower, and they've done it all year long. I'm going to go with South Georgia Academy in a close one. Now, here's one we haven't talked about all year, but I think we owe it since this is the state championship game. In AAA, GIAA, you've got Deerfield Windsor at 9-3, and they'll take on Valwood, who's also 9-3. We've got America's High graduate Tommy Clark, whose son is playing at Deerfield Windsor. And I know he's a faithful watcher of our show, so wanted to say hello to them and wish them the best of luck. And then at Valwood, their head coach, Brad Wells, has been a guest on our program before. Brad, the former Parks and Recreation Director in Berrien County, now the head coach at Valwood. This one's going to be a slobber knocker.
It is. I think that since I have not followed either team that closely this year, I'm going to go with Deerfield Windsor on this one. I think that they've played some pretty good football this year from what I've heard. Valwood has the past few years. I mean, I think they won it a few years ago, but they've also choked in some games in the playoffs, and so this is I'm sure the pressure's on them at this game more so as Deerfield Windsor, because Deerfield didn't have a very good year last year. So.
I'm going to go with Deerfield as well, Scott. And last year, Valwood upset John Millage.
Yes.
I think everybody except the players and coaches felt like John Millage would win it.
Mm-hmm.
Valwood comes out and beats them. I think Deerfield turns the table on them this year.
Mm-hmm.
Did not mention Coach Rod Murray. He came and joined us just a few weeks ago, and we certainly like Rod Murray and hope that he'll get a state championship here as well. Let's go, both of us on the Integrity Sports Podcast. We're going with Deerfield Windsor. And that takes us to our local game, Scott. Sumter County at 10-1 against Morgan County at 10-1 in Madison.
I'm going to go with Sumter County. I just think that the only time they stumped their toe all year was at Carver. I think that the only thing that caused me any reservation at all is the fact that they're going to have to go on the road and play up there in Madison. But the reality is, if the fans from Sumter County get genuinely excited and go up there and cheer on this team and don't give that big time home field advantage to Morgan County, I like Sumter County in this game.
I'm going to go with Morgan County. I wish I didn't, but after talking to my buddy Drew last night and finding out a little bit about Morgan County, then today I went on the Georgia High School Sports Daily, and it looks like Morgan County is about a 12-point favorite in this game, and they do it with no emotion. They do it with just the numbers.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong. We're pulling for Sumter County. Unfortunately, I think Sumter County is one more year away from state championship caliber. Morgan, with the number of seniors they got, may be a little ahead of them, and it's at their place. So if I'm doing this honestly and not on emotion, I got to say I think Morgan County will win this one in a close one. Scott, that gets us to a little bit of basketball on the college level. Georgia Southwestern's men, they'll be at Tuskegee next Tuesday. Coach Aaron Coombs and that group got a big win last night, and he's off to a good start. The Georgia Southwestern women are hosting Valdosta State right now, live as we speak, and then they'll host Savannah State at the Storm Dome on Saturday. Also across town at South Georgia Technical College, the men are traveling this weekend over to Huntsville, Alabama. They'll be at Wallace of Huntsville on Sunday. The South Georgia Tech women have a better trip. They're going down to Daytona Beach, and they'll take on Hillsboro on Saturday in Daytona Beach. So we're wrapping up football, kind of transitioning into basketball. And, Scott, that used to be in our area, basketball season was kind of the thing to get you through to baseball. But, boy, the last 3 or 4 years, we've had some good high school and college basketball played here.
Definitely. It wasn't like you said, it wasn't just the little buffer that got you in between the two big sports here. But basketball has now turned into a pretty big sport, especially with America Sumter having success in the girls arena the past few years. And, and I tell you, too, there's a couple other football. Is there anything you want to cover other than
No.
Okay. A couple of football games I wanted to mention. One, Georgia Tech tonight playing, and Trent Davis, senior night, local has local connections, and also my nephew is playing for Bullock Academy in the state championship also.
And is that tonight or Saturday?
It's Saturday.
Okay.
It's Saturday, so they'll be playing. So that's another game I'm going to have my eye on. I told his mom and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law. I said that's my next project. He's a freshman, so I think we're going to try to get him some camps and try to get him plugged in somewhere.
Again, we want to thank you for making the Integrity Sports Podcast a part of your weekly routine. Thanks to all of our friends out in the training room at the University of Colorado in Boulder. We always enjoy having you guys. We've had a nice crowd here at the Roman Oven Pizzeria tonight. I think Anthony has made plenty of money tonight.
Yes.
So it's been a lot of fun. Go out and support the Panthers this weekend. Make sure you catch some college basketball. For Sky Westbrook, I'm Tim Estes. Thanks for watching. So long, everybody.